Hi everybody, good morning. Just getting my little thing going here. Okay. Okay, so we have things to do today, things to talk about and things to do, and I need a sip of my Vitality tea. Really helps keep your energy up during the day. So anyways, so we have a few things going on here. We are going to do a couple different recipes, and so we have this here, which I'm going to show you. You can see, just trying to see what you can see. Okay, so we have here, this is the a combination of things, actually. Let me just set that there. So what we have here is, we did a few weeks ago, several weeks ago actually, we did pickled beets. And so this is the leftover pickled beet recipe, which is super, super awesome. And what we're doing here is we're kind of combining this with the recipe. Hey Jane, good morning. So we're going to combine the special secret pickled beet recipe with using this for a similar recipe that I tried from a friend of mine, Linda La Rochelle. She generously gave me a jar of pickled red cabbage, and it was like super awesome to die for. And so I wanted to do that one, but then I realized that the ingredients were very similar, kind of different. So so I'll do Linda's recipe, but it's very similar in that in this formula, which is also in Linda's, we have cinnamon sticks. Can you see that? Cinnamon sticks. And we apple cider vinegar, and we also have, it does have brown sugar, I have to say. It's a family recipe, so it does have brown sugar. But in these muslin bags here, I'll just try and raise one up. This is full of, raise it up without splashing it all over myself. It has allspice and cloves in it. So allspice, cloves, cinnamon, vinegar, and brown sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this together in a jar, and what I've done here, I kind of pre-did this for you guys because it just makes it easier. Well, it makes it go faster. It doesn't really make it any easier. Okay, so I sliced up the red cabbage, purple cabbage. So your purple cabbage has a lot more vitamin C than it does K. Your green cabbage has a lot more vitamin K than vitamin C, right? And the red cabbage or purple cabbage also has as much of the antioxidant properties as goji berries, which is super awesome, and much cheaper than goji berries, which we talked about yesterday, I think, when we did the overnight oats, adding the, and they used berries years ago. So anyway, what I've done here with the cabbage is I've just put a little bit of salt, not a whole lot, like a teaspoon, and this is, oh, I don't know how much this is, but we'll see. When we put it in the jar, we'll find out. Okay, we're going to do a couple different things here. I think we're going to put the cabbage in this one, and you know what? I know I'm just going to make a huge mess, so I am going to grab my special thing here because it helps for not making as much of a mess. And the handy dandy little canning thing here. I'm just looking at the comments there. Hey. Okay, so we are going to attempt to get this in to the canning jar. So this is just raw it's raw red or purple cabbage. Whoops, I am spilling. And we're just going to put it into the jar here. So it's just been massaged a little bit. Probably about an hour ago, I started putting the salt on and massaging it just a bit. And then I just let it sit so that it's softened, right? Because the salt is going to start it to ferment. And if you left it longer, it would ferment more, which would be super awesome. as well, because as you know, the fermented foods are so important. And you know, with your probiotics, your prebiotics, your we're going to talk about prebiotics in a minute, and so it's so important for your immune system, for your obviously your gut bacteria, your gut health, for brain function, for your energy, for your whole immune system. So super important to be getting your probiotics. And best way of doing that really is through food and you know, raw things like sauerkraut, fermented sauerkraut. Okay, so now the thing is, after I just said how fantastically beneficial the fermented raw sauerkraut with salt is, I'm just going to ruin it here by putting the this has been heated and cooked, right? So you know, we'll still get a little bit of benefit because this is raw in here, but I am adding an actual vinegar mix. Okay, so but sometimes you have to and everything doesn't have to be perfectly healthy every single time. Sometimes you have to balance the nutrition and the, you know, pure good foods with a little bit of fun food too. So, and as things go, this is a lot better than a bag of potato chips or something like that. Okay, so okay, here goes the other challenge. This is not going to pour well. I can see that now that I think about it. All these things I don't think about before we get on camera. Like, oh yeah, we'll just do this, and then it's like, okay, how are we going to do this gracefully? And I don't think we are. I don't think that's going to happen gracefully at all. I have an idea. I have a couple ideas, and I'm not really sure. But I'm thinking the easiest thing to do, sorry to disrupt again, is to grab a big measuring cup with a spout. Otherwise, you're going to watch me make a great big huge mess. So let's just do that. Okay. One of these days I will completely think things through, and I won't be interrupting you like that's ever going to happen. That's never going to happen. Oh God. Okay. So, but that's what we do. We just forget things, and then we remember things, and then we do things a different way. Okay. This is a little bit. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah. So if I spill it all over the place, you're not going to see the whole entire show. So that's cool. But you know what? I am going to put a cloth down. I should be doing this over the sink, but you wouldn't see me do that. I'm not going to run away from you again. So we're just going to go like this, and oh, look at that. I don't know if you can see it. I didn't spill a drop. Is that amazing or what? Okay, so this is very concentrated and rich, and I will show you a little bit more. You can see the size of the actual allspice and cloves. It's like huge big bags, right? So this was from the pickled beets, and it pickled itself. So it's very you know, this is like been here for about a month, but it's not gonna go bad because it has such a large amount of two things that preserve, which is sugar and vinegar. So yeah, so we're just gonna, this is part of the fun food part, not as much of the nutritious part, although the cloves and the allspice and the cinnamon are super awesome and it's really healthy. Okay, so we're just gonna pour this over, and I might not be seeing everybody on here because I don't see a bunch of other people. But sometimes if I miss you, I'm really sorry if I haven't mentioned you, because sometimes it's really hard to see the little look there and look here too. See all the comments. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this on. Now, I'm just going to just cover it. Not, you know, not overly so. Because this isn't going to be a raw, typical raw fermentation. like sauerkraut is. So typically when you're making a raw fermentation, the food has to be under the rot and mold and all kinds of things. So, but this particular formula has been cooked. It does have a fair amount of sugar and vinegar, so it's not just salt and water. So I can just leave it like this, and then just make sure that I shake it. Piece there. Just make sure that it is well covered with the vinegar, because that will preserve it. So, and then like any ferments or anything that you're doing, you know, anything that's not going to fit. Anything that you're cooking, you know, you want to watch it. Like anything that's fresh like that, you're always watching for molds and you know, things to start to grow bacteria. You know, for instance, my good friend Jane and I took the food safe course years and years ago, and one of the things I just never ever dreamt was rice. And I thought, you know, you cook rice, you leave it on the stove, and you have dinner, and you know, you might get distracted or whatever and not put everything away back into the fridge immediately. Well, you cannot do that with rice. If you leave rice out at room temperature and it comes to room temperature, and I don't remember the exact degrees, but just don't do it. Then the rice will grow bacteria, and I didn't think so. I thought, you know, things like obviously mayonnaise and dairy products and things like that, you know, eggs that tend to grow bacteria dangerously very fast, but rice does too, so beware. Make sure that when you serve your rice, you immediately get it either into cooling, or keep an eye on it till it drops to a certain temperature to where you put it in the fridge and get it in the fridge. Okay, so seeing as how I mismatched my lid and I have the wrong lid here, I'm just going to set this here for a minute. This is going to be beautiful. It will turn more like this. So this is, I should have actually brought Linda's out. This is a red cabbage that I made, but this is fermenting, okay? Completely different, but a little the same. So this is raw cabbage, and it was just the salt preserves the food, and they've used salt for hundreds and hundreds of years for preserving food, everything from vegetables to meats to, you know, pretty much anything. And so this is the raw fermented red sauerkraut. I mean, red cabbage that's turned into a red sauerkraut. There's carrots in here. So when you are doing an actual ferment, you always want to make sure that it can breathe, because it's going to form the lactic acid bubbles, and it's going to need to breathe. So these guys here I'm really happy with. What I was doing before was you know, put either a coffee filter, or you could put a muslin or cotton cloth over with an elastic, or even a paper towel, so that it could breathe, but it would keep the, you know, any dust or bugs or anything out. Fruit flies specifically, when we're talking bugs. And so then if the sauerkraut or whatever the food was, could be anything you're fermenting, if it isn't below the salt water brine, then it would tend to grow this SCOBY kind of thing, you know, which it's pretty normal for it to grow a SCOBY, which is like a little film, kind of scummy, you know, film. It's not a very good word, but it kind of is like that. And then in the old days, they would do the fermentation of the sauerkraut in great big huge crocks, you know, the ceramic crocks. I think they're ceramic. Anyways, and then they would just take off the top layer that had grown that cap, so to speak, and eat sauerkraut underneath. But these guys here, they're little rubber ring, or a rubber lid, and they go in your ring, and they have a little tiny pinhole at the top, and I'm really liking them, because for the first time in my life ever, it has come out of the liquid, and I've been watching it daily, and it has not grown. I don't know if you can get it out, it kind of sticks. And so it creates a bit of a vacuum. I think I'm back. Facebook just disappeared. So that is very distracting and annoying when it just disappears like that. Anyway, I don't know where I left off or what you heard or didn't hear, but yeah, it's just sharing the fan. This is just simply amazing. But typically what you want to make sure and do when you find like this that your ferment, whatever you're fermenting, has gone below the brine level, you should top it off. And so I do have a which I usually, because I do quite a few. Oh, hey Darlene, oh, you're late. Well, that's okay, Facebook just cut us off in a minute, but we're back, so it's good. So yeah, so I do keep a little jar of the salt brine aside because I do quite a few ferments, and if you find that it's gone down underneath the that it's not covered in the brine, you can just top it off. Never top it off with just water. Just don't do that, even though there's salt in it, and if there's a lot of salt in it, just don't. Make sure that your salt is thoroughly mixed in with your water before you add it. Super important. Otherwise, that water will sit on top and it will grow bacteria. So, yeah, so that's with that one, and I will top this one up too. I've got all my little brines and ferments happening here, so I'm just going to top this one off too. Okay, so even though these toppers are doing a fabulous job, you know, just to play it safe, to make sure that it's underneath the brine, and it can be more, it can be less. I'm pretty, you know, feeling way more confident now that I realize how well these lids work. Okay, so we're on to the next thing, and I'm just going to set this here so you guys can have a look at what we've done. You can see this, right? Yes, you can. Okay, good. All right, so, and that's why I apologize that I'm doing that my Facebook lives are selfies, but I kind of need to make sure that I don't go out of the frame. And I don't know how to do that without doing a selfie because I'm not a professional videographer. Is that a word? Okay, so this is exciting. These are Jerusalem artichokes. I'm going to show you guys. Well, I guess I don't need to take those out. And I did take the stems off. So I was going to bring a whole plant in and I forgot to tell you. But anyway, they're also called sunchokes, and they are they grow really tall like a sunflower, and they have these beautiful little roots on them that are like potatoes. So normally they're called Jerusalem artichokes, and they are, I tried to research where they're from and stuff, and they're not from Jerusalem. I don't know where they're from. I can't remember. I did look it up. But anyways, and they aren't artichokes either. So, but they taste like artichoke hearts. Oh my God, I just am in love with them. And they're good for you. They have all kinds of they're really good for cholesterol, for regulating cholesterol, because they're super high in fiber, and I'm going to tell you about that. Super high in fiber, and so that helps with blood pressure. It helps with cholesterol. They have a lot of potassium, like they're full of potassium. Did I get the stem off that? Maybe not. They're high in protein, and so they're really good. You cook them like potatoes. Apparently you can eat them raw, slice them up and eat them raw like a water chestnut, except that they do have this thing called inulin, and it's not insulin, it's inulin, and it's totally different. It has, it's good for you. Inulin is good for you. It feeds beneficial bacteria. It's like a prebiotic, but it's indigestible. So it helps with your intestinal bacteria, and it helps to grow the intestinal bacteria. It's got something called fructans or something, fructans. Anyway, the inulin, it has all these really benefits and beneficial things that it does. But the inulin, because it's kind of indigestible, it can, if you're not used to it, it can create a little bit of gas and bloating and cramping. So when you start eating Jerusalem artichokes, you need to start with just a little bit, because it's like a bunch of fiber, and it'll start trying to move things through, to my understanding. And so if it starts moving things through and you're not used to how things move, or if you've had digestive issues or constipation or whatever, as it moves things through, it can kind of grab things, and that can create a little bit of cramping. And if things are there's a ton of controversy on how and if things stagnate in the colon for a really long time. But especially if you're eating meat, it will take a long time to go through, depending on what kind of meat you're eating. And so as it moves things through, that can create a little bit of cramping. And since we don't really eat meat, so things move through faster for us. But at the same time, nobody's perfectly perfect. And when I grew up, I had the most horrific, horrible diet until I started learning all this stuff 25 years ago. So I'm old now, and I can't remember how old I was 25 years ago. But I'm gonna guess I was around 40. And so until I was almost 40 years old, something like that, I didn't know, right? I didn't know about nutrition. I didn't know all of these things. And so I did create some intestinal challenges for myself, because I wasn't eating properly. I didn't know any different. And so anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is that these affect me a little bit too. So, they come this time of year, right, when the potatoes are ready. And so when you take them out and you start using them and cooking them and eating them, start with a little bit at a time, like probably, not that much. Probably that much. Okay, so that much the first day, and then you wouldn't eat them every day. You wait a day or two, and then graduate more up to this, to where you can eat more, because they're fabulous, really, really good for you, and they have so many health benefits. They're definitely like a prebiotic. They have iron as well, iron, potassium, like super good for you. So, couple different things you can do. Start off small, cook them like potatoes, start off small, or this is the important part, you can boil them with lemon juice or vinegar, and that helps to break down the inulin, and so that really helps for the digestion, of making it easier and less gassy and less less fibrous. Well, not really less fibrous, but less irritating as a fiber. And so the other thing that you can do, which is what we're going to do right now, super exciting, we are going to ferment them. How'd you know? How did you know we were all about fermenting today? So I am going to stick these beautiful guys, and this is the other thing about these. Fantastic food source. These things will grow anywhere, and they get anywhere from 6 to 8 to 12 to 15 feet high, like a sunflower, with a little bit of a smaller head, but a beautiful flower. And they grow these things, and they will come back year after year after year after year. If you have these in your garden, you will have a constant supply of food, probably for the rest of your life, because they are a little invasive. Like when you put them there, they'll reproduce the next year. There's no problem there. I'll cut the little tail off that, or the stem. Used properly, and they're just a great food source. You can slice them into potato chips. You can dehydrate them. You can do all kinds of things. And I have not fermented these before. I've just cooked them, and just gotten just enjoyed the benefits, because they do taste like artichokes. If you like artichokes, oh my God, they're so good. You know, so I've just cooked them and used them like that, and with a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of vinegar. So I have not fermented them before, but apparently that really, really breaks down that whole tendency for it to be a little too fibrous with the inulin. So that's what we're going to do, and I will let you guys know how this works out. And once they're fermented, then you can, of course, well, you can eat them raw anyways. People that are used to them eat them raw, slice them up and eat them like water chestnuts. And once you get used to them, they're so, so good for you. So the other thing is with fermenting them is that you can have them all year round, so that you don't have to gently introduce yourself to them in the fall. You can actually enjoy them all year. So yeah, aren't they beautiful? So that's super awesome, and I have quite a few. I do have my saltwater brine here. I'm just going to put this over. You know, I mean, you could do anything with this to flavor them, because I have not done this before. I want the pure flavor. I don't really want to be adding garlic and ginger and, you know, whatever, peppers or anything like that, because I just want to get to know the true fermented flavor. But if you wanted to, absolutely, you can add, now see, this is my other salt water. I can see a little salt on the bottom. You want to make sure that's well mixed. Yeah, so you could add anything to it with your ferment, but I just want to get the true flavor. So I'm excited to do this, and we had them for dinner last night. You know, same thing. I just had a little bit like that of each, and then I had potatoes, a wonderful, beautiful potatoes from the garden as well. And so we had, you know, a couple bites of the Jerusalem artichokes, and then, you know, mostly potatoes, and then of course the vegetables, salad, and all that stuff. The other thing, yeah, I keep forgetting to call them. They're also known as sunchokes, because they kind of sort of look like a sunflower seed. I mean, a sunflower plant, because they get really tall with big yellow, beautiful blossom flower. Oh, these are really cool. I wanted to show you these two, all the fun new things that we're learning, that I'm learning. This was introduced to me by a good friend of mine, Claudia, and I had never seen them before. I don't know if you guys have, but rather than the you know, the standard canning lids, that you can only can with these once, okay? Because it has the rubber seal on it here, you can you know, it may not seal if you use it twice. You're not supposed to use it twice. Okay, so I do tend to keep a few around in a separate box, just for covering things up that are not canned, because I did not know you could get these. These are plastic. It's called a tattler, two T's, Tattler. And it's a plastic thing with a separate rubber ring, and apparently you can reuse these over and over and over and over again, so that you're not wasting and, you know, getting a bunch of, because most of the time you are supposed to throw these away after you open, you know, and finish your canning. So it's environmentally friendly. You can use them over and over and over again. I'm sure that you must be able to order the rings, although it says the rings are good for, you know, time and time and time again. Kind of like the old-fashioned, you know, the glass tops. They used to make these in glass, and then they'd have a rubber ring, and you'd see them, you know, the old-fashioned, and they would have, some would have I think I have some here with the little snap thing that goes on them. Or you would have the glass and the ring, right? Like the old days when they used to reuse things instead of throwing them away. Anyway, so I'm pretty happy to learn about this. I think that's super awesome. So I did buy some of those, and I'm really thinking that's a good thing. So the other thing is, because we are fermenting, I am going to use my cute little thingy. I'm going to order some more of these. I really, really like them. I think they are really super awesome. Like I said, it's the first time in the history of my fermenting that I have not, that I've actually had the fluid go down below the brine and nothing happened. Nothing grew. So I'm really loving these guys. So yeah, so that looks so pretty. And then for those of you that just came on, and any new people, we started off with a purple cabbage. It's all about cabbage today and fermenting. We started off with purple cabbage that I had just massaged in a little bit of salt, not too much, just a little bit, to bring it down about an hour before we started. And then we added the beautiful combination here of the cinnamon sticks, allspice and cloves, and you can see it's quite a bit, with apple cider vinegar and some brown sugar. You could use, I didn't use, but you could use raw natural sugar too, which I might use. This is from when we made the beets, the pickled beets, and I just didn't want to mess with that formula because I was doing like 40 pounds of pickled beets. So, you know, sometimes you just don't want to experiment with something more natural when you're looking to preserve something for a long time. I don't know if that's a little sacrilegious, but but you know, sometimes you just have to use the stuff that you know works, even if it's not quite as healthy as something else. Okay, so that's cool. Awesome. So thank you for hanging out. Happy to have you guys here and with your comments, and be sure to comment in the on the Facebook. I do upload all of these to my YouTube channel, so feel free to comment there. I definitely like to get my YouTube a little more interactive as well, and check out my Instagram too. Okay, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 11. Have a really, really great day.